Oftentimes, when we hear of a particularly brutal true crime case, we are left scratching our heads and asking ourselves how someone could do such a thing to another human being. In today's case, both the victim and the perpetrators are among our society's most vulnerable population. They were all children. Welcome to my channel, Weird Wild Stories. My name is Chrissy, and I typically discuss things that are strange, mysterious, and creepy. If that interests you, then please subscribe or follow me. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button, leave me a comment, or share this video with a friend. That really helps out a small growing channel like mine. Okay, now let's get into today's story. On February 12th, 1993, the city of Liverpool was shaken to its core. An ordinary day in the crowded New Strand shopping centre turned into one of the darkest days in British criminal history when 2-year-old James Bulger was led away from his mother by two boys, just 10 years old. Denise Bulger had taken her young son, James, to the shopping center that day. In a split second, as she momentarily turned away to pay for some groceries, her little boy vanished. What followed was an unspeakable nightmare. It was Friday afternoon, and the shopping center was packed with people finishing their errands. While Denise anxiously searched for her son, a little boy named James was being led away by two young boys who were wandering the mall. These boys, Robert Thompson and John Venables, had already been in trouble that day attempting to steal items from stores and were even reported as troublemakers by various shopkeepers. What happened next would haunt the country and shock the world. Security footage from that afternoon shows Robert and John leading young James out of the shopping center. He stumbles along, holding their hands, oblivious to the danger. What looks like a simple scene of children playing turns sinister. As the three boys left the mall, witnesses reported seeing James with his kidnappers. Some even approached them, asking why James appeared to be distressed. But each time, Thompson and Venables shrugged it off, saying James was their younger brother or that they were taking him home. The three boys walked over 2 miles, making their way to a desolate stretch of railway tracks. Along the way, the cruelty began to escalate. According to court documents, Thompson and Venables began physically abusing James. Witnesses later reported seeing the boys push, hit, and even throw paint into James's face. By the time they reached the train tracks, James was exhausted, injured, and completely at their mercy. What happened next was both brutal and horrifying. Thompson and Venables beat James with bricks, an iron bar, and even left him lying on the tracks. After this senseless assault, they fled the scene, leaving the little boy alone. James' body was discovered 2 days later by local children. The crime scene, filled with the gruesome evidence of the boys' actions, left investigators struggling to comprehend the horror of it all. Liverpool police launched one of the largest manhunts in British history. Soon, security footage from the mall surfaced, and within days, John Venables and Robert Thompson were identified. These were two young boys, just 10 years old, responsible for one of the most brutal acts the country had ever witnessed. The trial began in November 1993 and drew global attention. Here were two 10-year-olds facing murder charges. The courtroom grappled with the disturbing details, with prosecutors revealing the cold, methodical nature of the crime. The boys showed a shocking lack of remorse and even discussed their actions in a way that left adults speechless. The defense argued that both boys came from troubled backgrounds, with histories of neglect, domestic abuse, and exposure to violence. But ultimately, it was clear that they understood what they were doing, that they had lured James away, abused him, and left him to die. In the end, both boys were found guilty of the abduction and murder of James Bulger, becoming the youngest convicted murderers in British history. They were sentenced to detention until they turned 18, a sentence that many argued was too lenient. The public reaction was intense. People were outraged, and even many other young children felt horror and disgust. parents were shaken, and the community felt that these boys were being let off lightly. The public demanded justice for James, and a debate on youth crime laws quickly arose. Despite the outcry, the sentences were upheld. However, the case led to widespread legal reforms and a national conversation about the causes of violent behavior in children. In 2001, Robert Thompson and John Venables were released from custody, given new identities, and relocated to undisclosed locations. Both were offered a fresh start, but their lives took drastically different paths. Thompson largely disappeared from the public eye, while Venables would go on to have multiple run-ins with the law. He was repeatedly arrested for various offenses, which reignited public anger and forced the government to reconsider protections for young offenders. The murder of James Bulger remains one of the most infamous crimes in British history. It changed laws, sparked debates, and exposed society's darker side. Today, people still struggle to comprehend how children could be capable of such brutality. James' parents have worked tirelessly to honor his memory, pushing for laws to protect children and prevent such horrors from happening again. In 2010, the James Bulger Memorial Trust was established to provide support and assistance to young people who face difficulties, a lasting tribute to the little boy who was taken too soon. To this day, the question lingers: how could two 10-year-old boys, still in elementary school, commit such an act? And why did the system fail to recognize the potential for violence in such young children? James Bulger's story is one that demands we confront some of the hardest questions about humanity. Perhaps that's why it remains such an enduring, haunting memory. A case that reminds us of the fragility of innocence, the darkness that can exist even in childhood, and the lasting impact of a life taken too soon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out the other videos I have to offer on this channel. You'll find true crime cases like this one, short horror stories, and more. Until next time, please stay safe, but as always, stay curious.